thank you all for making the time to hear us out. And hello, everyone out in the interweb. Thank you for tuning in, too, wherever you are. So we're going to be chatting a little bit about what data do you need to build a comprehensive health score. And we have a slightly different approach. I think there's definitely an opportunity here to just geek out for a whole 20 minutes on numbers and equations. But what we found is that process ended up playing a much bigger role in getting to that point where we had a health score that was solid and scalable. And that's a little bit of the approach that we're going to be sharing with you all today. So. Do you have a?
There's a remote. Did you walk off with the remote?
I think our last speaker ran off with the remote, but we will make do. So if these, I'll let you know if these slides are moving without our intention, just in case he's clicking in another room. So I'm Sam. I am the Director of Customer Success over at BrightTALK.
I'm Matt Eastling, Solutions Architect at Totango.
And we have been working together for quite a few months, doing some very cool things. And I can't wait to get to that part of the presentation. But first things first. So just a little bit about BrightTALK itself. And one, this was important stuff for me to learn as I came into the organization. And it was very important that we define these things as we were moving forward and growing our customer success effort. But in essence, what we do is help modern marketers create and nurture leads with video and webinar marketing programs. And what that means is we built a content marketing platform from the ground up, specifically for marketing professionals. So let's move the right way. So again, one of the things that I'd mentioned earlier, this felt more like a journey for us. Naturally, we knew what our end goal was, but there were several steps that we had to take in order to get there. And in some cases, I think it's safer to call it an adventure. There were a lot of leaps, jumps, sometimes having to climb back up and then run and jump again. So what I'd like to share with you is a little bit of the journey that we took and how those stages of the journey ultimately led to us having a strong health model. So some of the items that we found were required for that journey. One, having a mandate is mandatory. So having your top level people, your top brass, your CEO, your senior staff in on this is incredibly important. So one of the functions that customer success provides is to be a driver of change within organizations. So it's really important as we make that change, there's also some discomforts that come out of that. So it's important that everyone is on board and they're behind this vision and they're behind this opportunity that we're all taking together as a company around that journey. Some other quick things that we'll be feeding back into throughout this presentation. The health model has to reflect how your clients use the product to achieve their goals. In a lot of instances, there's a way that we build a product and we expect it to be used, but that might not necessarily be exactly how a client is using it. So to get a reliable health model, it's very important to understand that aspect of things. And one of the interesting things that we found is that the health score and the whole health model was actually the icing on the cake. So even though that was our destination, there were several other layers and ingredients that we needed in order to get to that point. So just to give you a little bit of background again on how our business operates. So we're a SaaS plus service model. How many of you guys in the audience would consider yourself just pure SaaS? There's no services. Okay, so the majority of the room is sitting on some type of mix. And that created some interesting challenges for our business, but also some interesting challenges for how we created our health model. So there's really three key components that we offer as a product. One of them is our SaaS product, the video and webinar platform. But the other two items that we have are services that are driven, where we have our BrightTALK community and we're driving leads to people's content. But also we help support customers by producing content for them. So this blended approach ends up changing how we think about health and how we structure things overall. And one other thing I'd like to note about this is even if a client didn't choose to use any of our services, in order for them to be successful, they still have to drive audience to their content, and they still have to create content that their audience wants to watch. So if those two things don't happen, our clients won't be successful. So whether or not they're buying our services or not, that turned into a very important nugget of information for us. So again, going back to this notion of getting buy-in and getting the right buy-in within the company, we were really lucky at BrightTALK because this transition from an account services business to a customer success business, that was the vision of our CEO. And he saw these opportunities around, one, being able to scale our rapidly growing business in a meaningful way, and two, to be able to bring all of the different aspects of our company together to start functioning with a unified front. So this opened a lot of doors for us, having the CEO backing us, understanding where we were going, sharing in our excitement for the journey we were taking, and also helping to remove whatever roadblocks were coming in our way as we move through that journey. So I just can't stress enough how important that aspect of things has been for us. And every journey starts somewhere. For us, our journey started with process. Again, we moved into customer success from the ground up. So we did not have this department 2 years ago, and we developed it. So for us, there was a lot of low-hanging fruit that we could reach out and obtain, and that ended up turning into the catalyst for us being able to pick up momentum and move forward. So a couple of the business challenges that we were facing, and again, this will tie into the way that we use technology in a few slides to come, but we had no standardized processes for onboarding or for managing customers. So everyone kind of had their own way of doing things, not only within our department, but within the other delivery departments. Another challenge that we were facing that kind of falls into that same realm is that there was limited communication across our teams. So, and sometimes it was just very difficult to communicate, even if we wanted to. And the last thing, and this is possibly one of the most important ones, there was no easy way for our CSMs to identify the health and performance of our clients so that we can divvy them up and decide how we're going to help retain and grow them. So the beginning, this foundation started on a lot of the basics, creating an onboarding process, really standardizing how we deal with net new clients and how we deal with clients past that 90-day process. Creating playbooks, creating other types of materials, structuring QBRs. So a lot of the initial work started there. But there was something really interesting that happened. So these three separate divisions, just from that, started coming closer together. Just through this, we started seeing more communication across the board, having consistent terminology, even having a process. Process started to become currency within our organization. It turned into a bit of, we'll show you ours if you show me yours. And a lot of the other teams started adapting that way. And as we started all creating our own processes that help benefit the client, it gave us a better means to be able to communicate with each other. And these are the first remnants of the data that we started collecting. Data around how we can work together, better data about how we can streamline the experience for our clients. And those seem kind of light on the health model stuff initially, but they play quite a bit into this. So again, moving out of these initial process phase, there were some questions that we really started to ask ourselves, and that is, we understand that we have these 3 areas. We understand that clients need these. But how do they actually derive value from BrightTALK? And the realization that we came to is that our clients are marketing professionals. We knew that. And that they have marketing strategies. And those strategies are actually a mix of these 3 items, whether they're buying them from us or from someone else. So instead of delivering and focusing on delivery as 3 separate units, it was this merger of these 3 items that was the incredible aha for us. Clients are producing programs to help achieve their goals. And if we can mirror the way that clients are running their businesses, then our business should be able to work in tandem with them to help them succeed. So this mix is a program. And that's where some of the fun stuff really starts to come in. We established a process. We expanded on that process. We began speaking between departments in a really positive way. And from that, we were able to start putting a technology layer on top of these learnings that we had. And that technology layer tied into 2 areas. How many of you guys feel that you're really centralized through Salesforce as a business? So, and the same thing goes for us. So we started out with a big focus on the sales team uses Salesforce, the finance team uses Salesforce, customer success and our delivery teams dabble in Salesforce. How do we bring all of this together if this is already something that we have? And the way that we ended up doing that is through the development of something we call the program object, and I'll get to that. On the other side, once we had that technology layer, it was really straightforward for us to lay on top of that a health model, because we understood how our business worked, we understood how to quantify that, and health came pretty easily. So just to take a moment and share with you this notion of a program object. So what this turned into was a representation within Salesforce of the mix that our clients were using in order to achieve their goals. So it's just a wrapper. And within that wrapper, it holds a representation of the channels that a client might own for a particular program, the content that we're producing for them towards their success, and whatever leads we're helping to drive, whatever audience we're helping them to grow. So this turned into a very interesting thing, because now all of a sudden we have a means to start reporting on how our clients are doing. Not necessarily from a health perspective yet, that piece isn't there, but we can start seeing a portfolio of programs that are assigned to CSMs, that are assigned to sales executives. And anyone within the business was able to start pulling their own custom reports to understand how is our business operating. Because at the end of the day, our business isn't really operating by a list of clients that we have. It's operating through a series of programs that those clients have with us. So health has to tie into those programs.
Yeah, and so Sam gave us a big challenge here. You can start to hear the complexities of his business and how all the data that's coming through needs to be organized. And it started here with this organization inside of Salesforce. It kind of started with what was before and what's after. So before, he had a subscription object with a different type, and it was very hard for his team to be able to look into it and see what was happening. It was great for a sales process, but didn't make sense for the rest of the business. And so what we architected was each of these child objects that can be managed as a process, as a sales process, as a CS process, as a services process. And within that, we want to start to build a health model against the data of that cadence and against the different information that we're getting. And then once we architected this inside of Salesforce, then we can start to carry this forward into a health model, right? And so this, what we're looking at is the nested objects within Salesforce having each one of them their own health model. So now we know which ones are at risk. So they could have some that are green, some that are red, but the concept of a program is also going to be tiered to be able to reflect that. So we're seeing a parent object here, right, within nested objects of health. But then we had to figure out a way to calculate this.
One thing that I'd like to note about the way that our business operates is that technically we have 4 separate health models. We have a health model for channel performance across the board, for content delivery performance, for audience delivery performance, and then the fourth model, and possibly the most important model for us, is this notion of program performance.
Yeah. So let's look at the data feeds that we're getting here, right? So for each of these child objects and also the parent object. And really what this is setting a goal or setting an expectation with the customer about the time that it's supposed to be delivered and how much against how much is actually delivered or how much is being adopted. And again, this is something that is going to transcend all of your health scores at some level, right? What is the expectation? What is good health, right? And what is poor health if it's not being met? And then you'll see there the program summary is a sum of all of those, literally. But there's really something that's interesting in there. Notice that there's contract value thrown in there. So the health is actually graded also or multiplied by contract value. So they're starting to see which ones in terms of health are contextualized against how much they're paying. And so this is a total contract value, right? So now we're looking at it in the program. So we're actually seeing a roll up there as well. And this data all comes in, and what does it do? It gives you a red, yellow, green score for each one of these child objects and the parent object. And so going forward, we have to look at how is this going to be segmented by health first, right? So now we have a health model for programs here, and we have a health model for each of the child objects. But then when we start to see things grow, so now how do we look at our information? We're getting feeds from literally the entire customer base. Now we want to be able to look at this, and here's maybe by size, right, how much they're paying. But this could also be by team member or by team or by the entire company. And so what we had to do here at Totango was to be able to try and have a solution that can accommodate all these different data points, but then also be able to give that feedback loop, reporting ability, and then also being able to do ad hoc type of segmentation. This is where it gets really interesting. How quickly can you adapt your data, but also your business driving kind of modeling that you're doing? Can you do that within the product? Can you do it quick? Can you calibrate? Can you adapt? And Totango was able to do that for BrightTALK at the end when we finished the solution.
So one of the other things that I would state that, and I imagine a lot of you in this room said that the way your business works, it's a mix of SaaS and service. So for us, a unique challenge that we had is it doesn't matter how many times someone logs in to one of their accounts as far as health goes. So for us, the question is, what do they do there? Are they rolling out and producing content? Are their subscribers growing based on the content that they're producing? Is the amount of content, say, that they are producing, is that in line with being able to complete all of their usage by the end of their contract? So very, very little of what we were able to accomplish, we could accomplish, say, through dropping a couple bits of JavaScript and sending that type of usage and usage volume data through. So for us, having that Salesforce component aggregating this information is what made it possible for us to have a meaningful health model. So just a couple of results that we ended up seeing, both out of the combination of the program object and Totango itself. So this has been able to drastically increase the amount of productivity that our CSMs and our delivery teams have been able to get. So for the same number of people, we've been able to get quite a bit more work done. There was so much of our time that was spent in huddles to prep for huddles, in meetings to talk about other meetings, and then to, just to follow up on the follow-ups, and then try to figure out, and then go through that whole process again to figure out if the client took a step forward or not. So what this gave us was the ability for everyone within the business to be able to see everything that's going on at any time. So this tweaked things like now for our senior team, when we're dealing with our one-on-ones, we're pulling up their dashboards. And our dashboards are automatically arranged to bring the things that we definitely should be talking about first to the forefront. So, and as those things are getting checked off the list, we're seeing that progress throughout the business too. So we've been able to start quantifying the activity that our teams are making and the time we've made up through having to force communicate with each other we've been able to give all of that time back to our clients, which has been really powerful. The other thing is this has created a very clear foundation for us to move to our next phase, which is automation. So a lot of the touch points, both internally and externally, are still done manually. It's been helped by having these lists and these reports, but we have gathered enough data now to be able to comfortably start automating outreach internally and externally around very particular triggers. And again, there's a very interesting item around this, and it ties to actually some takeaways. So having the top brass on board with us made all the difference in the world. Even when we were kind of struggling with some of these transitions, change is not always fun in any size of organization. But being able to see the excitement when we move to the next step, our next milestone in the process, and to see the senior team and the other departments say, wow, that's pretty exciting. I see where we're going with this. I understand that this might take me more work right now, but I'm on board for this. And we've seen that big transition within the organization, and that's been great. The other key takeaway ties into this notion of process before technology. I remember a year and a half ago, there were lots of groups that were coming to us and saying, hey, when are you going to automate? When are you going to get this technology layer? And the answer was, I don't know if we know what we're doing yet. Quite frankly, like, we need to know what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're going to do it if we want to have, if we want to leverage technology and make it useful for us. So in that sense, focusing on that process first, even if it meant being a little bit more manual for a while, is what gave us the ability to really accelerate ourselves using both our Salesforce implementation and Totango. And unless you've got anything else, Matt.
No, I think I'm good. Just looking forward to see if there's any questions about what you guys are doing today and how we might be able to help you out.
That's an excellent question. So the question was, the SaaS side seems pretty straightforward, but how is the health model identifying the services business? So our whole health model focuses on a number of delivery items that are contracted against the contract end date. Okay? So what that means is, say, if a client has for the services side, has purchased a certain audience guarantee from us, say 1,200 subscribers over the course of a year, and we're driving 100 people to their content every month. What we have is an object within Salesforce that the whole audience team manages their business through. And what they do is they put their goals within there. So we understand that we have to average 100 a month in order to hit that annual goal. Now, since we have a cadence against time, we have some math that identifies whether we're ahead or behind the curve on delivery. So the question becomes a delivery cadence, and that is the hard part of this model. There's a softer part that comes through both customer success and the delivery teams having conversations with the client based on how they're feeling. Are they happy with what they are getting? Are they happy with the steps that are involved on our side to deliver those things? So those tie into the soft side of it, but we've been able to set up an analytical model around delivery against time. So we'll call ourselves healthy if we are delivering on time, and we'll start raising internal flags if, say, that variance drops to about 10% off. Now, if we have a client that we're over-delivering for, which does happen, there are clients that are like, give me as much as you can give me as fast as you can. So in those instances, those automatically get flagged as sales opportunities. So if someone is just really churning through this and they're happy about it, then that automatically brings us to a point where we can start. Yeah.
So just to also answer your question a little bit on the more technical side, it's more about status, right? Expectation against status, and status can come, as he was saying, by time, but also by sentiment. Yeah, I'm working on this, and what's the progress, and what are the things slowing it down? And so there's got to be a certain way in which to give you that kind of perspective to have those data points. And so you want to capture each one of those steps. And so for BrightTALK, that's month by month, making sure they're achieving the goals, but also are they achieving the steps in the process. Cool.